Hey everybody, I'm Big Al with Country Music News International and host of the Big Al and Sandy radio show. With us today is a young lady that is absolutely storming Nashville, Tennessee and the music industry. She just dropped a brand new album called Equilibrium. And by the way, JessLee, I had to pronounce that two or three times before I messed it up here this morning.
You said it beautifully.
Well, welcome, and I'm glad to have you with us. You're on 1 RPM Records, and I guess that NBC Voice season 14 just jump-started your career. It's just been a dream for you, hasn't it?
It's truly been a wild ride. I actually spent the majority of my life believing I wasn't even going to do music. I had grandparents that were kind of like the pioneers of successful indie artists. And they have been incredible at literally making an gorgeous like life for themselves, doing 100% music. And they've always been an inspiration to me. And it's funny because I've always loved music because of that. But I legitimately like didn't see myself doing it because I grew up with a very dark past of abuse with my father and, physical, mental abuse, you name it. And it's one of those things that when you go through something like that for almost like half of your life, it subconsciously messes you up for a long time. And I really didn't have the self-esteem for this industry. I didn't have the self-esteem. I didn't have the self-belief. I was just kind of the person that I'd always look at other artists and be like, there's no way I could ever be like that. And then it was kind of like a sequence of events. One day, I legitimately was like, I need to just do this for fun. I need to do this as an outlet. And I decided I was going to make my first single, and I had a couple friends in my town behind me on it, and created a music video for it, did a Kickstarter, and it ended up being what was the segue into The Voice because my town believed in me. I literally put out this song and this video as my like first piece of content. And the video just went crazy. It ended up going like crazy viral. I think I woke up like one morning and it had like 60,000 views on it. And I had like 400 people. I had like 400 people on my little fan page. So like for me, that was viral. It was like, this is crazy, to have this kind of reach. And then it just kept going. It's like I woke up the next day and it had doubled, and then woke up the next day and it had tripled, and it was wild. And then before I know it, 4 months later, I was being called by the show. They invited me on. They flew me out there. It was a wild ride, and a really exciting ride because more than like media level and everything like that, I'd say the biggest thing The Voice brought me was that self-belief that I needed, again, along with diving into my religion, along with diving into like my relationship, my spiritual relationship with God, and doing a lot of self-searching, obviously. But it was kind of the opening that was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And I actually really love this. And like, this is what I want to be doing. And I've been kind of selling myself short here, and afterwards, to be quite honest with you, because I just never want to undervalue my team. It was my team. It really was my management team, Black Label Nash, that when I got off the show, they started really segueing my career into what it's becoming, and really honing in on my brand and really kind of getting me to even understand like who I wanted to be in this industry, and while allowing me to be myself. And, it's been a really exciting time, and it feels honestly like it's kind of all been in the blink of an eye, which is so weird.
Well, let's mention something here. I want to mention your website, which is JessLeeMusic.com. Everybody
Yes.
can go over there and catch all kinds of information. Your download platforms, you've got thousands of people now, hundreds of thousands of people that are watching you, downloads by the millions. I mean, you're like
Yeah.
in the top 5 of the downloads. But there is something I want to mention about you because you're a strong lady. You see, I studied up on you just a little,
Oh, I love that.
and I knew about your dad, but you had what a lot of people do. You eat a lot, and I kind of feel a little bit bad about myself because I ate a Big Mac yesterday and I wished I hadn't, because I hadn't had one for about 2 years. But
Yeah.
my point is you straightened yourself out. You had the talent. You buckled
Thank you.
down. People don't realize the behind the scenes in the music or the acting business. And
Yeah.
I think that once they realize that it's not all lights and color and dreams and fun, they have to get down and work. And that's something that you did, because with this album, Equilibrium, you had a pretty big hand in putting this album together. Here's what people are saying about you, and then we're going to talk about this album. A top songwriter in Nashville, Trace Atkins, powerful vocals. Kelly Clarkson, amazing, phenomenal. I mean, all these people, these major people are talking about you, but you buckled down. So kind of give us an idea of the JessLee behind the scenes. You co-produced this album, I believe, with Steve Virginia.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. The JessLee behind the scenes, is I'm just a girl that I want to make music ultimately that touches people. I mean, I've always told myself that when it comes to this career, as long as I can put a song out and it resonates with at least one person, I'm technically doing my job. I'm doing what God put on my heart. And, if it's in God's will that it's going to be so much bigger than that, and it's going to continue to grow at the pace it's been growing, then, I'm here for it. But weirdly enough, like, that's not even my ultimate goal. Like, I don't think about my music career and be like, I want to be Beyonce one day. Like, I've never really, it's so weird. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but like, I've never, in the beginning, I would say I kind of was like, the very beginning, I was enamored by the glam and the glitter and like all the things you're talking about. And then you get into it and you realize how much of it's not. there's
Yeah.
there's only probably about an hour or two out of each day when it's showtime or when it's whatever that you're doing, or music video filming time, or like there's these moments of that. But like, realistically, the creation process and the business process is kind of ugly. Like, I just keep it real, and I think so much of me doing what I did with my fitness and going through the things with my dad and having to be so mentally strong really helped me with this, because realistically, this is more than anything, more than talent, more than, just anything in this career. I think perseverance is what really pushes people through. I mean, Lainey Wilson is a great example of that. I mean, she's been out in this town for, I think, like 15 years now, and been on the same record deal for 12, and she's just now seeing her pop, and people don't realize, this is a 10-year town at the least sometimes. And I'm blown away that I honestly signed my record deal in 4. Like, that just doesn't happen, and I think really the JessLee that, is behind the scenes is just a hustler. And I'm always just trying to do and, what God puts on my heart, and do what I feel like is right for the music. And, I'm the one writing the songs. I'm the one producing the songs. I co-produce with my co-producer, Steve Virginia, who also doubles as my manager. He just forever was an incredible artist. And when I met him out here in Nashville, he had a lot in the hand of branding with some of the biggest artists out here. I mean, he was working with Broken Bow. He branded the entire, I think it's Black River, the one that Kelsey Ballerini's on. He branded the whole record label. So he came from the business side, always had a passion being an artist, always had a talent. And, I saw that. And when he asked me one day, he's like, I would love to be able to work on this with you. I was excited about it, because I'm a huge believer in allowing the people around me to dive into their creative outlet. I feel like it just keeps people excited about the process. And because he's so involved in it, it makes them even more excited about, working for me on the business side of things too, which he's so great at, because he's been in this business for 20 years now. So it's a really unique situation, but at the same time, it's not. I mean, you see Beyonce, who was managed by her father. You see Celine and Renee, who, they were a married couple in this industry for years, and I think it's so cool when you really get to grow with your team and continue to dance with the ones that brought you to the dance. I'm really big on loyalty. That's definitely the Italian in me. I've got it tattooed on my body, so it's one of those things that it's like behind the scenes, it's a lot of grit, it's a lot of love, it's a lot of family, because it's just a teamwork of people that are all involved in different facets of this. And it's just a unique blend of humans that all share a similar purpose. And I think that's what keeps us going.
Well, let's talk about a couple tracks with this album. Actually, let's talk about the title first, Equilibrium. It's on 1 RPM. You can go to any download platform, everybody, and get one of the great tracks, or actually buy all of them. I didn't get to listen to all through the album, but I got to listen to a couple, and I want to talk about a couple of diverse tracks you have on this album. But the title, it really is a great album. And when I think of equilibrium, I think of balance. I mean, so why did you title that album that?
Yes, I really sat on it. I was like, what is the title track to this, right? Like, you always see a lot of albums that they pick one of the tracks as the album title, and it just didn't feel like, with the energy and the vibe and the creation process of this album, none of those songs, although every single one of them I feel like stand out in their own way, maybe that's why it just felt like none of them could really encapsulate the story behind this album. And one day I was just driving in my car and I was sitting here thinking about, wow, like, I'm releasing my first album. And I just had these flood of thoughts coming through my head. And I can't believe a woman in music who, like, some of these songs are going to radio next year, like, a woman in music just produced these songs and my music's going to be on radio. And like, it's just, you don't hear that, and I've just was sitting there, like, laying out my journey. And I really just, more than anything, kept thinking about the fact that I feel like I just kind of slowly allowed myself to lean into this feeling of balance that I feel like I finally achieved. But it took all of these songs that were legitimately written in all of these seasons of my life of coming out. I mean, I've been out here in Nashville this year. I believe officially moved out here is 4 years. I think I'm losing track. I think it's 4 years. 4 years in July, I think is when it happened, because 2019. Yeah. So 4 years in July, which is crazy to me. And it's wild because I have at least a song from every single year that I've been here. And, I've pulled from this time of being here and just sitting back and watching, like, what that's become and who I had to become and who I grew into emotionally, spiritually, professionally, personally, like, I was just kind of like laying all that out in my head, and the only word that just kept coming to you was balance and balance. And I'm like, well, what's a prettier word for balance? And then I started kind of thinking about that, and I'm like, holy crap, I've found my equilibrium. Like, I've found who I feel like this person, this energy is what I need to keep leaning into. And, it was that energy that kind of like started pushing me into what my little, like, you have Lainey Wilson that talks about bell bottom country, you've got, Russell Dickerson, who talks about lover boy country, and that's how he kind of like describes his music. Well, it's cool because I fell into my sound this year too, which was a huge part of that balance of mixing these genres together. So my team and I and a bunch of people have kind of coined my sound tomboy country, because it's this kind of almost like masculine, a little bit like riff driven music. You could really hear it shine in like Fading Tattoo and South of Somewhere, where you have these really cool, almost like Keith Urban-y kind of kind of thing. So it's cool because you don't really hear that from a lot of females, and that was one of the things that Tim Whipperman would say about me when he heard me come in and showcase, he was like, his exact words were, "You're really different." And he's like, and that's going to take you a little longer to get where you want to get. But when you do, that's also who the trailblazers are. Those are the people that stay in this industry. And that was the biggest compliment I could ever get in my life from someone with so much clout in this town, because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to come here and I want to be myself. I want to have a vibe that's signature. I want to touch people. And, if I'm doing that, I don't care how long it takes, because I can truthfully say during the process, I'm being true to myself, and I'm enjoying it the whole time because I'm being true to myself. And there's a lot of people out here that can't say that because they're being told who they're supposed to be. And that's what's so cool about my journey. No one's telling me who I'm supposed to be. This is JessLee.
Well, JessLee, I want to talk about 2 tracks. We got just a little bit of time left. I think these 2 tracks really, well, I really don't have the words, so I'm just going to say it this way. Drinking Thinking. I went and watched the video.
It's wild.
I love that. You are a great actor. I mean, I figured that's something else you're going to be getting into is acting, but the Drinking Thinking and the video together, I mean, that just brings that song to life.
Thank you.
It was great. It did a great job on that video. But there's another song that caught my attention. It's down at the bottom, at least where I got a copy of the album. It's called Fly Away, and that is just with piano. And I think that just kind of fills out the whole album after you're all wound up running all night long. And then you just kind of bring that on and step back, and that really, vocals just stand out. That is a beautiful track.
Thank you.
Fly Away. Did you write that?
Yes. So Fly Away. I've been getting a lot of questions in these interviews, and it's so funny. The hardest question to answer is literally when someone goes, "What's your favorite track?" I don't have technically a favorite track. All these tracks have literally meant something in a certain season of my life. But what I will say is one of the most personal tracks for me is Fly Away. And Fly Away was written with myself, Dan Smalley, who's an incredible writer out here, and Steve Virginia. And we were in the room one day, and weirdly enough, it was the first time in my life that I ever wore sandals to a write. I always come in boots or like Doc Martens or like something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wore these sandals first time ever. And I walk in and I have my tattoo on my foot, and it's basically a feather, and it says, "One day I'll fly away." And I got the tattoo during a period of my life, which is based around the song, which was the abuse that I was going through with my father. And I would legitimately stare out the window. So it's my true story. I would stare out the window and I'd watch these birds, and they just didn't like a situation that they were in, or something didn't suit them, and they'd fly away. And I was so young at the time that I wasn't able to do that. Sorry, I get emotional talking about this song.
It's all right.
But it was one of those things that I always felt like when I was looking out the window, something would always be like, "Hold on to the hope. You're going to be out of this." And, I always knew I wanted to write that song. I had it for a long time. I think it could not have been written with 2 better people. It was exactly the people I was supposed to be in with that moment. I really believe that I wore those sandals that day for a reason, because the tattoo was inspired by the song title that I had in my phone forever. And it literally is a feather, and it says, "One day I'll fly away." So I had my foot out and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it. And it was almost like Dan Smalley read my mind. And he literally looks at it and he goes, "What does your tattoo on your foot say? It's really pretty." And I said, "It's one day I'll fly away." And I told him the whole story I just told you. And he goes, "That's what we're writing today. Like, we're writing that today." And I was like, I was apprehensive at first, because I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to get this deep. But I'm so glad I did, because it needed to happen. And it's I couldn't imagine it being played by anybody else but my grandfather, and that's who's playing the piano. So,
Oh, really? Oh, that
yeah.
is awesome. That is, well, I just know when I started listening to it, I was just, there was a lot of thoughts going in my mind and I was relaxing and I thought, wow, this really sums up the album. This sums up her. And with that, I want to mention this great album called Equilibrium. It dropped, I think it was September the 29th. Anybody can go to any download platform and pick this up, or you can go over to JessLee's website, which is JessLee.com. Everybody, go check it out. All the download platforms, Facebook, Spotify, I can go down the line, but that would be a waste of time. Record company 1RPM. Now, I always give everybody that I talk to a little bit of the last word. You've certainly been a high energy young lady to talk to. It's been delightful. So, what would you like to tell the readers around the world, Germany, UK, United States, and the people that's going to be listening to this on the radio? What would you like to tell them as we finish up, Jess?
I would say I want to wrap it up like the record. No matter what you're going through in your life, hold on to hope. And that's the message of the song. And I feel like that's the message of my life. I feel like that's like the biggest thing God's put in my heart to do this, is to be that messenger, that so long as you are, moving towards him and, you're doing what's right, good things will always come. And you just have to be able to hold on to that hope and that belief and show up every day and do everything in love, and good things will always continue to happen to you.
Well, thank you for being with me and being on Country Music International. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.